Hello and welcome to Wise Women Wednesdays. My name is Jennifer Regular. I am a soul-centered empowerment coach at Lighting the Path and your host here on the show, gathering inspiring women from around the world on the topics of spirituality, metaphysics, empowerment, transformation, and life purpose. Today, I have Laurie Seymour here, zooming in from Denver, Colorado. She is a quantum connection mentor and is also a two-time #1 best-selling author, host of Wisdom Talk Radio, international speaker and trainer, founder, CEO of the Baca Institute as well. She helps conscious entrepreneurs connect and align with their inner guidance from source using her unique quantum abundance process. Starting with inner guidance mastery blueprint and then a quantum leap into inspiration, into action, activate and amplify your connection with source. The result, inner peace, joyful abundance, and a thriving business and personal life. So let's just take a moment now and imagine a world where everyone knows that they are a unique expression of creative intelligence, that they access this intelligence effortlessly, their quantum connection, in order to solve the world's problems, big or small, shifting humanity into the world that it is possible. So let's do this together now and welcome Laurie to the show. Laurie, it is so wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really excited and pleased to be here with you.
Yes, absolutely. So you're having us imagine this world. Share your vision with me. What is the world that you're seeing for us?
Well, it's a vision, and it's also what I know to be a reality. In other words, if we are all connected, we are all connected anyway. That's a given. We all have that capacity. A lot of people don't tune into it. A lot of people don't tap into it. And when we do, when we really learn how to have that inner guidance as our default, as our way of living life, ever as our way of being in the world, then what happens is your projects come to life more easily, more quickly. You run your business without that kind of second guessing where you're saying, well, do I do this? Oh, I'm scared. And then fear comes up and it stops you in your tracks. When you really line up with your inner guidance, the fear kind of disappears, the doubt, because you feel the reality of your own inner guidance. And then that is what propels you forward. So that's what I mean about your projects coming to fruition more quickly, more easily. Your business isn't running you, but you're there with that flow and with that ease and with that sense of peace, so that actually what happens is you start having more time for the other things in life too. And so when we all are living from that, the creative intelligence of the universe is there at our fingertips, and we get to create with that rather than just relying on our, what we already know.
Yeah, so it's almost like we can change our settings, like that we can put it in that default setting, like you said, and make that default setting our intuition and our guidance, and then fine tune it into the frequencies of the universe so that everything can just be the way that it's meant to be, in its flow and its own rhythm and its own reality, and not just a vision that we're trying to pursue or to go after, but to have that all just manifest.
To have it manifest, to have it become real. I was just, a client of mine was sharing today, actually on social media, unbeknownst to me, she put something out, and she was talking about the things that have changed for her in our work together. And even though she didn't say specifically, she talked about the ease and the flow, and what I know is how much her business has ramped up. It's like, I'm going to ask her, put a number to that, because I know that when we started, her business was at one level and it has gone up probably 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And she's had a book in the wings for a dozen years. that just got released last week.
Yay.
Those kinds of very practical, tangible things.
Mm-hmm.
And how she experiences her life is being in flow. Instead of like things running you get to say, oh, I have more time, because instead of pushing, there's that alignment with, because the universe does know.
Universe does know. And so we don't have to figure it all out because it's
don't.
already part of the plan.
Yes.
So is that what you call quantum abundance then, Laurie? Is that quantum leap like this client took and having her book published and, exponentially raising the profits of her business? And
Mm-hmm. Yes, because when we're there aligned with what our inner guidance is telling us, instead of stopping in doubt or in fear, we're actually taking action. We're actually taking the steps that our inner guidance is informing us of. Then things are lined up. It's like the universe is there saying, hey, this is the piece that you get to play with right now, because that person's lined up and that person and everything's here ready to move forward. So we can't, the universe can't do it for us, but we can line up with the universe. And that's where quantum abundance comes in.
Everything's here ready to move forward. So it's the inspired and aligned actions that are leading to the quantum abundance.
Exactly.
Wow.
And
yeah.
Guidance may also tell us it's not the right timing for this. Hold off, wait. And we can get, I know I can get sometimes thrown by that, or wait, my personality just wants to push forward and do it. But I've learned sometimes the hard way that when I do that, it's my own personal will. And I'm not lined up. The alignment is not there. And so the support, the energetic support isn't there. Because when the energetic support is there, I feel the flow, and it's like I'm not having to take one step forward and 6 steps back.
Right.
And when something doesn't go the way I expect it to go, then I get to query that, and I get to be curious about that and say, because I may have missed something. I may have asked about timing last week, and instead of staying with that and to keep checking in, because things change.
Yes.
And there may have been something else I needed to bring in that I didn't stop and inquire about.
Right. And sometimes too, it just might be something even bigger and better is happening. And if we do it too soon, then it doesn't have the chance to really blossom into what it could be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And to trust that.
It's trusting that, isn't it?
Yes. And sometimes that redirection is protection too. We might be off track, right? Or on the right path and taking a different train, for example, like everything has to be in alignment for that manifestation that we're wanting to see. But it can be even better than what we'd even imagined if we just are patient and trust the process and have faith in that all things coming together.
Yeah. It's a dance though, because I have seen people be what they call patient, and what I might call, and I don't mean this in a judgment way, but I might call passive. And so that passivity doesn't allow anything to happen, because the universe does need us to take action, not action for action's sake, but aligned, intentional action.
Right. Intentional action, inspired, aligned, intentional action. Yes. And you're right that there's the kind that we hold back or just sit back, and it's almost in a resigned way or the passive way, as you mentioned. Or it could be that it has the quality of peace. Patience could be seen as peace in action. And like you were saying, when we're in that alignment, then we're not in that place of fear. We're in a place of peace and joy and trust. those
Yeah, and
higher
my work,
vibrational qualities.
it is. And
Yeah.
my work is so much about lowering the noise so
Mm,
that you can hear, so that
yes.
it's not just an intuition or a kind of a fleeting feeling,
Mm,
but that it really becomes something that you can rely on.
right.
And that's my vision, that we do that. We live that way. And I say that it's not just a vision, but it's reality, is because I spent 20 some years with a group of people, and there were about 50 of us working with a particular teacher, but who had brought us all to this place of being able to hear our inner guidance, to rely on it, to live it.
Mm,
And what we were doing was looking at how is it changing our lives?
mm-hmm.
What does life look like when you live like this?
Yeah, so intuition is also something that we develop more and more.
Yeah. And for me, I don't even use the word intuition because I
Mm,
feel like it's so much more than intuition.
right. Hmm.
It's that refinement.
The
So,
refinement. Okay. Okay.
so I mean, it may be quibbling on language, and probably is. But that's why I call it inner guidance and I don't call it
Inner
intuition.
guidance rather than intuition.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So obviously you're aligned in your vision. How did this become your mission, Laurie? When did this feel like it was what you needed to do? Did you feel a sense of calling? What lit your path?
Mm. I've always felt like there was more to life than what was presented to me.
Mm,
uh, I didn't know how to tap into that. I didn't know how to find it. I didn't know even what that meant. And actually that for me made me feel kind of empty for a
mm,
long time.
mm-hmm.
And and so when I went into the field of psychology, it was because that was the place that I saw had the most potential.
Hmm.
It was kind of limited. I didn't know it as limited, but from my own perspective, that's what I saw. And so I became a psychotherapist because I saw that I could explore myself. I could help other people to explore themselves. Self-awareness was a really big deal.
Yeah.
But what I was most interested in was, how do we tap into that potential? What lies beyond that other side? And I did years and years of searching around that, of study, of working with different teachers, of whatever I could do to see where the moreness was existing, and
Yes.
how I could tap into that.
And when did you find that? Do you remember that moment?
Oh, I do. What I remember is finding that in different pieces and yet still feeling something missing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually in 1987.
You remember the year?
Oh, I remember the moment,
Wow.
because I was with this particular teacher. Her name was Dawn, and I was being initiated. And it was in that experience, that energetic experience, that that whole really was filled. And it was that experience of such deep inner love for myself, like love of self-love, whatever we want to call it. And it was like every light went on in me.
Oh, wow.
And it was like after that, I couldn't feel that same kind of self-doubt that I felt all the time. It's just, if I had a moment of self-doubt, I could say, wait a minute, this is different than that feeling. And it was an embodied experience.
Oh, wow.
So I got to know it from the inside out. I guess that's the only way you can really know it, is from the inside out.
From the inside out. So would you say then, and I like that you said that, because when you said that it filled you up, to me it sounded even more, or possibly like an activation.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of something
It
being
was.
filled in,
Mm-hmm.
something might have been activated and
Yeah.
from the inside out, and then become a more full expression of
Mm-hmm.
your soul and your divinity and your beingness.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned an initiation. Are you able to share a little bit more about what you mean by that or what that involved?
Well, I not with what that involved,
No.
no, but I mean, initiations are sacred.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I do initiations,
Okay.
I will speak about it just as they're really quantum leaps.
Okay.
Because we can study something over a course of many, many years, and we might come to what an initiation might bring us.
Right.
But in an initiation, which is an energetic experience, that activation, that opening takes place, and it takes place instantaneously. And what could have taken us 20 years, we might experience in a moment.
Right. Yes.
Then we have to see, how do we live with it? How do we decode it? How do we bring it into being in our everyday life?
Yes.
But that's a very different process.
That's more of an integration process. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that in the sacred initiation that you had the blessing of having in your lifetime. I only asked in case, people's ears perked up. And how do I get one of those, right? Just to understand, there are those sacred initiations. There's also the symbolic initiations. Maybe even call it as a rite of passage, the different roles, experiences, and defining moments that we have throughout our life that change us, that transform us, right? Think about transformation as transcending form. So we don't go back to our old ways of being and doing, because it's just not a fit anymore. It's similar to what you just explained. Like there's just, you can reflect on it, but you experience it much differently, and it's not a part of you anymore. It's something that just kind of passes through, and you can move through that. And so in many different roles or assignments that we might have, families that we've been put in, or relationships that we've been contracted to have, or different jobs that we've taken on, are all different pieces, like you were saying earlier too, that we pick up on, and then we learn something a little bit more about ourselves and the world we live in and how we relate to it. And then if we take the time to reflect on that and do some introspection and see what kind of meaning this has had for my life, and what kind of deeper truth is embedded in this, and how does this support me on my journey? And when we look at things too, we look at whether it's moving us along our highest path, because quite often we might settle for something, again, taking the passive mode or setting, right? And when there could be so much more that we can tap into, that we can engage in. And sometimes, you may be blessed and it may be on your path to have a sacred initiation. And there are times too where you might meet up with a coach or a mentor, or even someone that you randomly meet on the street that just provides that little bit of insight, that just something there that you just always remember, that really hits home in a certain way, that activates, another aspect of you, and that makes it come alive.
Exactly. Because those things happen in energy.
Yes.
Really, the things that move us in the world, in our lives, do happen in energy. And so it can be that person you're passing on the street that looks at you in a certain way.
Yes.
And it's like you remember. And it's not even like you remember something that you had forgotten.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you able to share, Laurie, a little bit about your process then that you take people through? Because you have a unique process for this quantum abundance, and you do mentor people in it. Yeah. What can you share with us today about that?
Well, the quantum, it's what I'm calling it now is the quantum connection.
Okay.
Because it is about quantum abundance, but really it's all about your own quantum connection. What is your own style? So that's the first step. And to discover what is your natural style of connecting with the universe. How do you manifest your creative expression in the world? And by creative, I could take that word out. How do you manifest your expression in the world?
Yes.
What are you most drawn to being and doing in the world? And then from there, it is learning how to tap into your inner guidance, because there's a process to that. it's not just a willy-nilly, some people are born with it and some people aren't. I know with every fiber of my being that everybody has that potential. Everybody. Not everybody wants to activate it. Not everybody wants to use it, and that's okay. But for the people that do, for the people that are those people that know there's more, the conscious entrepreneurs, the people that want to quick start or jump start their own ability to bring into being what they're imagining and what they're inspired to do. Yes. That's part of my way of working with people. Is part of it is initiation process, and part of it is in working with energy, in energy with people, so that they get the inner experience of what it feels like to be connected with their inner guidance. And then they get to learn how to tap into that interactive nature of querying your inner guidance, getting the information, downloading that, being able to bring that into action, being able to have discernment, and to have the focus necessary, because there's lots of us that get a lot of ideas. We get a lot of ideas, but you have to know then, okay, well, which idea is for me? And is this the right timing? What we were talking about before about timing. And then it's, how do we take it into its next step? And so taking an idea or an inspiration into form means that if you do that with your inner guidance all the way along the way, instead of getting from taking 10 years to get from point A to point B, it might take you 6 months, because you're doing that in an aligned way. You're doing that with your inner guidance. Your inner guidance doesn't have a time clock like that says you got to slog through the muck, because you don't have to slog through the muck. You do have to stay connected with your inner guidance, because then you do it with a feeling of peace, with a feeling of ease, and even of joy.
Yes. So you talk about it as a quantum connection. And we hear a lot these days about quantum healing and about quantum everything, basically. Right. So what is your definition of quantum?
We live in a quantum world.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is that everything is energy. Everything is energy. And so there is this quantum undifferentiated field. And this is what physics has demonstrated over and over and over again. And we are a part of that. And we are actually a holographic part of that, which means that everything in the universe is contained within us.
Yes.
And so as we learn how to tap into that, because that is our quantum connection, that's how inner guidance becomes not only real, but really good guidance for making great decisions. Because you're tuning into something that is so far beyond what our linear brain wants to operate in. We're going into a whole other dimension of reality, of creation.
Yes.
Like, this is the creative essence of the universe, the creative intelligence of the universe. And we get to tap into that.
Yay. Absolutely. So if people do want to tap into that and they want to work with you and go through that process of inspiration and all the steps to activation and birth those creations into the world, then how can they get a hold of you or learn more about what you offer?
The best way is on my website, which is the baccainstitute.com. And Baca is B-A-C-A. And it's actually a place in Southern Colorado where the group of us used to gather regularly to do this research, to do this inner research. And so when I started my company a long time ago, I wanted to honor that work that we had all done together. So anyway, but that's the kind of the quick backstory to the name. But going onto the website for the baccainstitute.com, and there you can find the quiz, the Quantum Connection quiz.
That's fun.
That is, yeah. And it will give you those pieces, not only of what your natural style is, but also your mastery path. How do you master that connection?
Right.
And what I mean by mastery is so that you have that access to your inner guidance and to your quantum connection in a way that supports you in doing your life in a way that absolutely will serve you.
Yes. Love it. Amazing. So we will have those links in the show notes as well for people to click into. So it's been so wonderful to have you here and touch on these amazing topics and hear your story about how you became initiated and what you learned and discovered about yourself and really uncovered who you are and what work you're meant to do in this world. And I know this will help inspire and empower others to do the same and to really connect with their inner guidance. And so I do, think that it'd be a great idea. But always use your discernment, of course, as we practice, to connect with Laurie and find out more, or even take the quiz, even if it's just for the fun of it, and just see how that feels, play it out, and see where it lands for you. It might just provide even more insight into who you are and what you're meant to do in this world.
Exactly.
Laurie, do you have anything else that you'd love to share with us? Any final words of wisdom?
For me, it always comes back to the breath, because the breath is the intelligence. The breath has intelligence, and it's our way of communicating with this quantum field. So we can think, oh, I have to be intuitive. I have to do this. I have my inner guidance. But actually taking a conscious breath, especially in a moment when you're in doubt, especially in a moment when you're pushing, when you're stressed, you say, wait a minute, let me take a conscious breath. Let me breathe in and know that this breath is going to not only be inspiration, as it actually is, but also it's going to fill me with that essence of that presence. It's like it ignites that presence within.
Yes.
So that's what I'd love to leave our listeners with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Laurie.
It's
been a very nourishing conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to have been here with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you who have been listening and watching today on Wise Women Wednesdays. It's always a pleasure to have you. I honor you, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.